Well, good morning or good evening, depending on where you are in the world today. I'm super excited to be here. We are lighting the torch today for an incredible book that's been in the making for almost a year now.
Going
Um,
on.
yeah, I was thinking about that today. So I am joined today with the author of Bone and Stars, a constellation of poems of healing and recovery from narcissistic abuse. And the author, her name is Erin Aurelia. As you can see, she's here with me today. And today is the official kickoff and release of her book. So I want to congratulate you on this beautiful labor of love. And how are you feeling?
Thank you, Hannah, for having me here. And I'm excited to be a part of the She Rises Studios project, Voices of 100 Women. I'm honored to be one of the 100. And I love this whole lighting the torch concept that you have here. That's something that's dear to me, kind of lighting torches and lighting flames and tending them. And so I feel like this is so in line with that it's beautiful. And I'm so excited that this volume, this body of poetry is in the world now. This has been in the making. The book has been in the making for a year, but the work itself has been in the making for years, for the last handful of years. So it's really exciting to see it out in the world now.
So you are an extraordinary writer. I've had the privilege of kind of sneak peeking um, along the journey of when, items have been turned in. And a lot of what you have shared in this book directly comes from personal stories of yours. Like this is this is you.
This
And
is like a
so,
memoir in poetic form, kind of. Yes.
yeah. And so, my first question to you is for the writing process itself, and as you mentioned, the book was happening long before the actual, okay, let's turn this into a book. How has it been, though, for the writing piece of this? Has it been therapeutic? What things did you notice throughout the actual writing process, this part?
The writing process was hugely therapeutic, in part because I was writing. That itself was massive for me. During the time that I was enduring the kind of abuse that I'm writing about, I had lost my voice. I was a prolific poet in my youth. I wrote reams of poetry. That was primarily what I did through my high school chemistry class because chemistry made no sense to me. So I just wrote poetry. So this was something I did. That was just a part of me. And then I got married and had kids pretty soon after. And, I kind of thought, well, maybe it's just a matter of growing up. Maybe it's just getting busy being a mom. Maybe it's just, real life gets in the way. And all of those things could be true to an extent. However, after I finally understood the nature of my marriage and the man that I was married to, and I divorced him, I left him a year later, my voice came back and I started writing again. And I realized the duration of time in which I was not writing correlated to the time in which I was enduring that abuse in that marriage. And that is what was really responsible for my voice being gone, because I was still a mother and I had to deal with the realities of life, even much more so, going through a divorce, moving out of my home, getting a job after having been home, raising my kids and homeschooling them for 20 years. It was all, I had to do all the things all at once. And yet through all of that, my voice came back. It found me somehow. And so the writing was hugely therapeutic in that I was doing it, in that I was processing so much that I was just coming to understand. It was like I have an extroverted nature, and part of that I've learned means I have to put things outside of me to really understand them. So I do this. I talk a lot. Like, I don't even need you here. I'll just talk. I will do this by myself. Because when I hear the words, I start to understand better. And the same thing when I write the words. So my process in writing really was no process. It was when I start to hear the words, I know, grab a pen, girl, because they're coming right now. So it's like this whole gush is coming out and I got to hurry to catch it. So get a pen, get a paper, write the first few words I hear, and then the rest just continue to follow in a cascade afterward. And then I take an exhale when I'm done. And then I read and I go, oh, look at what I wrote. Look at what that means. Look at what that's telling me. And it was something that had to come out, that had to be verbalized, that had to be put into words, that had to be used. Poetry was the vehicle that had to be done. This couldn't have just been done for me through standard journaling and discussing or talking out loud. It had to come out in poetry. Poetry is the most powerful language we have because it's compact, because it derives directly from a strong emotion. And I had to understand what I was going through, because what I endured was a kind of abuse I didn't understand. I thought abuse meant hitting. I was never hit. It was emotional abuse. And it took me a very long time to know what was happening to me, what it was called. And so the thing is, people don't think of abuse as violence unless it's hitting. And what I came to understand was a violence was done to me. It was done to me, and it was done deliberately to me. So I had to use the language of violence to write about what was done to me in order to fully understand the impact it had on me. So it was therapeutic. It was clarifying. It was purgative. And it was empowering to see that I could do this. I could still do this. And I could do it well. Like, there's a lot of things in life I'm not good at, but I'm good at writing poetry. So that felt very good.
I think it's very true what you said, Erin, that, mental and emotional abuse is just as severe as physical. I think that is sometimes something that people don't understand. And so I think that's a very great touch point that you shared on. One of the themes of your collection is reclaiming one's voice, which you shared right now, after enduring this emotional abuse. And I guess my question would be, the mental and emotional doesn't leave the physical scars, but it leaves the mental scars. So what would you say to the readers who are going to pick this book up and take this dive into this journey with you? What would you say to them?
Well, I said it in the introduction of the book. I have said it to them that that I wish I'd learned these terms a long time ago. Because when we have a word and a definition for something, that makes it real for us. And when we don't have a vocabulary for something, it's not actually real to us yet, because our brains don't have a concept of it without a word that defines it. And what I learned is that emotional abuse is a word with a concept, that narcissistic abuse is a term with a concept, that narcissistic personality disorder is a term with a concept. And these things helped me to see my life in a way I'd not seen it before and make sense of it. And what made the most sense to me, what most got my attention, was when I was researching online, trying to learn about these things. And through the thread of emotional abuse, I landed on the YWCA's page. And on that page, they have a block, at least they did years ago when I left. They had a nice big block right on the front that talked about support for those who are suffering with domestic violence. And the domestic violence takes multiple forms. It is physical abuse, it is emotional abuse, and mental abuse, and financial abuse, and sexual abuse. And the words emotional abuse and domestic violence jumped out at me. Emotional abuse is domestic violence. Emotional abuse is violence. It is. And that's when I realized that's what I'm living with. Oh my God, I got to get out. I got to go. I got to get my kids and go. We're not safe here. We haven't been safe here. And that's what this writing these helped me to see, is the ways in which I felt unsafe that I didn't fully know at the time. And so what I would tell the reader is that though these poems use the language of violence, it isn't to convey that I was hit. It is to convey that I was emotionally cut over and over and over, day after day after day. And that's why these poems look the way they do, because that's how I had to write them to understand my experience. And I would urge anyone who recognizes their experience through reading these words to contact the YWCA. They have great resources there. They have support systems. They have domestic violence classes. They have support groups that are free to attend. And that helped me a lot in my recovery and healing.
So let's talk about that for a second. Your own recovery and healing. How are you today?
Today, I am 7 years out of an abusive marriage, and I no longer live with an abusive partner. I live in my own space, and I get to choose my actions based on what feels good to me and what I want to do and when I want to do it and how I want to do it. And I'm drunk on independence. I think it's the best thing in the world.
I love that. Drunk on independence. There's nothing wrong with that.
No, there isn't. It's fabulous. I highly recommend it. And ideally, if you're in a good relationship, then ideally you get to maintain some of your independence within that. Like it would be lovely to find another romantic relationship again sometime that feels meaningful to me. But I would want to maintain a lot of independence within it, because I need to be me. I need to do what I need to do and how I need to do it. And if he doesn't want to come to open mic to hear me perform, fine. He doesn't have to, but I'm going. I'm not staying in with him. I'm going. So that's important to me. So that's what feels good to me now.
So you and I have spoken several times over the course of a year or so. And looking back from the very first time that you and I spoke to today, what do you think has significantly changed for you as an author, as a person, just in general?
Well, I've been published some more, so that's fantastic. Not only this poetry book, but just earlier this month, I was also published in an anthology of poetry put together by my local poetry open mic community. The Ghost Town Poetry Open Mic Anthology Volume 3 was just published earlier this month, and I'm very proud of the piece that I have in there. So if anyone's interested in checking out more of my poetry, that's one place to find it. I feel, there are things in my life I still struggle with. Don't get me wrong. I've been having a slew of health issues that I'm very unhappy about and frustrated with, and have impeded my getting out to my open mics, by the way, which I don't like at all, because that's just been such a central part of my life since I found them, these wonderful supportive communities. So, I don't know. I don't know how to say what's changed. Maybe you'd have a better idea of looking at me and deciding what's changed. Sometimes it's hard to tell for your own self, how you developed or grow.
I think that I for sure can say that I see a different glow. The voice that you're speaking about, I hear now. Whereas when we first connected, you were very quiet, reserved. I see a lot of significant changes of goodness. I don't think there was ever anything bad. I think there was just a lot of things that were waiting to come out. Like this was kind of like, this is it. Here it is, all of me. I think that there's been this extraordinary journey of change for you from the outside looking in. I sat in a classroom area with you, but I've also sat behind the scenes with you in some meetings and different aspects of things. So I think it's really interesting to see where you were versus a year ago and to today, and just the journey of all the goodness and just seeing the glow. I think I shared that with you one time.
I think that sounds familiar. Yes, I appreciate that.
Your glow is
interesting. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, you weren't done.
No, I was just going to say, when you glow, it's different. People around you, they see it, they feel it. And I think you writing this type of a book will help others find theirs.
I love that you said that, because that is just what I hope. I think that's what every artist inside hopes, is that their art can inspire others as
Mhm.
well to express themselves in the ways that they need to, in whatever form. Like if I inspire someone to make a painting, it doesn't have to be poetry. You know, what inspires me most is music. That's what moved me and opened me up to feel everything that had been frozen for so long. I was numb for so long because I couldn't, my body
Right.
knew it was not safe to feel everything, that I wasn't safe. But once I finally was, that music cracked me open, and then I felt everything. And that's what I want, is others to be able to feel what they need to feel, to create. I think art saves the world. I really do. And this is where I feel most like me, the real, the true me. And when you first met me, it was in a realm in which I was unsure of myself in that space. You know, I'm here because there are things I don't know, and there are all the things that you know that I don't know yet. So I'm still trying to figure it all out, and I'm very unsure of myself. But in this sphere, this is me. This is the most
Yeah.
me of me. And I'm very sure of myself as an artist, as a poet, and not only as a writer, but as a performer. And so that's the glow you see, is that I know this is me. This is my true self here.
Well, I think it's amazing. And, none of us have it all or know it all, right? That's the part, I think that's a part of art too, is the discovery, like
Mhm.
learning who we are, what do we love, what can we do, what gifts do we have. I mean, you're very talented, very analytical, very creative. Um, and this is probably just the beginning. And open mic. So I have to ask because I did not see that one coming. So tell me a little bit about that. What
Oh,
is open mic? Like, I'm eager to hear.
okay, fantastic. Open mic is a community event where anyone who has something they want to share or perform can get up on a stage and share and perform. You might have seen them in movies or TV shows, like
Mhm.
in bars or coffee shops, and someone's up on a simple stage sitting on a stool. Maybe they're strumming a guitar and singing a song or something along those lines. So these happen around town. I didn't even know about them myself, Hannah, until 5 years ago, actually, this month, I attended my first open mic, and I found out about it on a complete lark. This whole story feels like magic to me, to be honest. Okay. So I had been reconnecting with the music of a band that I listened to in my youth when I was first going through independence. And it was like channeling this new stage of independence for me. And it was opening me up to feel things and to write again. And I was driving one day, and all of a sudden I heard these words in my head very clearly: "You need live music."
Mm.
And I went, "Oh, well, that sounds fun. I wonder where that happens." Because I'm just a mom. I don't know these cool things. I don't know where music happens. Now I got to figure that out, And it sounded, because what it felt to me like, don't go see a big concert like, that, but like live music. Where is it happening? Where are the local artists playing? Where is that? And so I
Mm.
was wondering about that. I was driving to the grocery store, and as I parked my car and got out and began walking toward the store, I started hearing strains of music. I was hearing somebody playing a guitar and singing. And as I got closer to the store, I saw there was a young man standing out front busking, playing his guitar
Wow.
and singing with his case open to accept donations. And I went, "Oh my God, live music. There it is. It's right there."
Wow.
So I stopped and I listened and put a little money in his case and said hi, and said, "You sound great. This is so great. Do you play anywhere? Like, could I hear you somewhere? Like, where did the musicians go?" And he was young. He was still like just like he was an older teenager. And so he said, "Well, there's not a lot of venues I can get into right now, but I like open mics. And there's one that's at a coffee shop downtown. And, you can just go and listen to the musicians, and it's open. So, if you have anything to share, you can too." And I went, "Oh,
Mm.
well, that's really interesting." And he said, "Actually, if you want to know more, there's a website online that lists all the open mics happening in town." And I went, "Oh." So he shared that with me. I went home and looked it up, and sure enough, there they were. So I
Mm.
made a list and I started attending. First, I went to the one that he recommended. But it really wasn't my vibe. It was sort of like a lot of old men playing really chill music, and it wasn't doing it for me. So the next week I tried another open mic, and it was better. There was more variety, there was more energy. But the guy running it, he just didn't seem that into it. And I asked him, well, do you ever have poets on? Like, could I read poetry? And he went, well, maybe for a few minutes. I can't give you a whole slot. And I said, okay. So he put me on the list, but it was at the very bottom. And by the time I got on, there were like 2 people left in the room because it was so late. So there wasn't much of an experience reading poetry for a couple minutes to an empty room. And he didn't seem very enthusiastic about having poets, so I didn't go back. So I went to the next one on the list. And that one, the host sat down right away and said, oh, you seem new. Are you here for the open mic? And I said, yeah. And he looked at my journal in front of me and he says, I see you're a poet. And I said, well, how did you know? He says, you look like a poet. And told me a little about the mic. And then he went up and he did like an intro set. And he was really good. And I went, wow, he's great. If I just get to hear him play every week, that would be awesome. And then a lot of the musicians went up were really great. And I really liked the vibe of it. So I kept coming back. And I would just sit and write while I was listening to music. But the third time I was there, the host said, you know, if you want, you can get up and read. And I'd gotten the impression from the second one I'd visited that maybe that wasn't the thing to do at these open mics. He says, no, you can. And I said, oh, okay. So I went up and read a few pieces and got some applause. And when I sat down, he came over and said that you've got some really great work. I mean, I can't even remember. He said amazing things to me, Hannah, so much that my brain could not even contain it because I was not used to hearing these things. Or receiving support from a man was like already just feeling like, I don't know, I felt so invisible, honestly. So this was such a revelation that someone saw me and someone heard me and someone valued what I had to bring. And then at the end, the other host and one of the other performers I really liked, they were all standing around telling me, you did really great. That was awesome. You should come back. You should do it again. And I was like, okay, I will. And so I did. And then that host, he invited me to collaborate with him in a project to make a song out of one of my poems with his music and words. I know. I was like, I just wanted to hear the music and now I get to be part of making the music. This is amazing. And so we made a song together and it's in the book. So readers can find it in there. The words anyway, not the music. But so that was a neat experience and a great community. And around the same time, I also learned about a local poetry open mic, the Ghost Town Poetry Open Mic I mentioned earlier, and they just celebrated their 20th anniversary. This is an amazing community run by such a dedicated host, and he's an incredible person. He's one of my favorite people. He just encourages and welcomes everyone who comes to this event, and everybody gets their chance to go up to the mic and read a few poems and sit back down again. And poetry open mics are different from like the mixed music mics. Those usually happen in bars, and they're filled with people who may not care what you're doing on the stage. So I feel like most of the time I'm just performing for my fellow artists because I don't know if anybody else there is really going to get poetry. But occasionally people have come up to me afterward and told me how much what I shared meant to them and how much it spoke to them and how much it brought them healing too from something they'd gone through. And so that's when I knew that these poems aren't just for me. And the poetry open mics were really supportive too. You know, those are like sit down rooms. Everybody's quiet. Everybody there is a poet. Everyone knows they're just there for that. It's not a noisy bar, lots of stuff going on, different kind of crowd. So that's open mic. And I had no idea. The town I live in, I came here because I followed the guy I ended up marrying here. I didn't grow up here. I wouldn't have been here for any other reason. And it turned out with these open mics here that this was the perfect place for me to be when I left the guy that I followed here because these beautifully supportive communities were here waiting for me to catch me. So it's the whole tapestry of that is just magic to me, how it worked.
I mean, I think you're where you're supposed to be.
Exactly.
And
I had no idea it was going to be like that.
You sharing, so much of your story I think it's an incredible journey. I think it's still just in the beginning stages of it all. And you sharing about finding your voice, um, honing in on the points of, for those who are watching now, who are going to watch the replay, those who are going to read this book, they're going to see, just like you saw, that they have a voice, and that their voice matters, that their feelings matter. Narcissistic abuse is so, it's debilitating to the person who's on the receiving end of it, but there is healing. And I think that your book focuses on like what happened, but also the healing process. And I think that's what makes it so beautiful, is that you are on this side of it now, where you can actually share how you're healing, how you're going, and you can help the next person. That's why I love books like that, because it really helps the person who picks up the book to say, okay, I'm not alone.
Yes, exactly. I wish I had a book like this to help me see what I was dealing with and know that now I understand what it is. And I'm not the only one who's been through this. This is the thing. People have endured this, and they'll understand what I mean and what I'm talking about. They'll see me. They'll hear me. And definitely
it makes it more fascinating too, because you did it in a poetic space. I think that is something that's that creativity side of you that I was talking about, is that it's poetic. You turned something that wasn't poetic into it, and now here you are. So for anyone who has been a part of your journey, and for those who are watching today, her book is currently available in ebook format all across Amazon. You can order from, I believe, 13 different countries as of today. And you're also going to have a paperback version of this book too. And I always tell people, get both, because one is a gadget, right? And you can read it anywhere, on your Kindle, on your phone. You can read it anywhere in an ebook format, but also getting the print version too, because that's something tangible that you can hold. I don't know how you are, Erin, about reading books, but I highlight everything. Like something sticks out to me, and there I am with the highlighter. So I always have to have the digital version, and I have to have my print version, so that I can smell it, read it, highlight it, go through it again and again and again, which I know you can do that in ebook. But ways to support Erin would be to go on Amazon today, order your ebook today, and not just order your ebook, but gift an ebook to someone else. You can gift as many as you want, because we're kicking off holiday season. It's a really great poetic book. You will not be disappointed. The cover is beautiful. Do you want to talk about that for a second?
Yes, actually. Thank you. There's a lovely woman I met online named Shelly Johns. She's an incredible artist. And she, out of the blue, just said to me one day, I see you're posting that you're writing a book, that you're putting together a book of poetry. And I would love to contribute a piece to your book. And I said, wow, that's wonderful. And this was a donation from her. It was just spontaneous. I just had met her online. I didn't know her that well. And I was bowled over, and I was wondering where it might fit within the book. And then I thought, well, what if she just does the cover? That might be cool. And I asked her, and she went, oh, a cover. Wow. Yeah. So we started talking about ideas, and it was a whole process, like over the course of many, many months, really, of my trying to articulate sort of my vision and what I see, and then her representing it, and then me making comments. No, I don't think it's that. Maybe I think it's that. Oh, I thought it was that, but really it's that. And then making adjustments. And it's very much like working with a musician to put together a composition, a song that we would do. Does it sound like this, or does it have this cadence? Does it have that rhythm? I don't know until I hear it. And then the art, I don't know until I see it. But the imagery of what's represented there is all significant. This title, Bone and Stars, is well represented on the cover. There is a woman standing on a riverbank at night beneath a sky full of stars, and glowing right between them looks like a full moon, but the full moon is in the shape of a human skull with stars shining from the eye sockets. And this image, just standing under a night sky under stars, is meaningful to me, because when I was going through the process of realizing I need to leave, and the process of leaving, and that emotional ripping apart from this person whose mask of any civility he had left was completely ripped away, and he was just naked in his ugliness toward me. There were nights I would just go stand outside on the back porch and look up at the stars, because that to me looks like this is a field of freedom I see. And not being inside this cage of this house, this marriage. And that just felt like the freedom, the energy of it that I wanted. And also, Bone and Stars to me means the essence. What I had to do to understand what I craved most was clarity. Because when you're in this kind of relationship, you endure a lot of confusion through gaslighting and manipulation, and you don't fully understand what's going on. You don't understand what's being done to you, or even who you are, or who that person is. I craved clarity. And so in order to understand my experience, it felt like just a stripping away of everything, all of these lies, all of these illusions that we live under, to get to the essence. What are we under? And everything. We are bone. We are gleaming white, hard bone. And that's what truth is to me. It is gleaming white and shining and hard. It is resilient and is strong and is enduring. That is what truth is. And it's under everything that we cover it up with. We just have to get rid of everything and get all the way down to the bottom and find it. So bone to me is important to represent truth. And the stars are equally what we are. What are the essence of us? We are star stuff. I would look up and see freedom, but I also saw that's also me. We're the same. I'm star stuff. I'm made of that. I am a shining light in this world. And that was beautifully represented on this cover. And she stands on the bank of a river. And all three of these themes, bones and stars and river, are represented in several poems throughout the book. And even the river itself became kind of a guide for me in putting together this book. That was actually the hardest part. Was I thought this will be easy since I've written all these poems. Oh, no. I've written so many poems. It was like, which ones do I put in here? And then now I've got like 80 poems. What order do all of these go in? Like, it's just all this stuff. So the river became my guide as to how they all flowed together as the journey. It's not a simple, first it was hard, and then I felt better, and then I felt great. There's all of these twists and turns and ins and outs. You know, you have this, now I get it, but then now I'm back down feeling crazy and confused again. It's not linear. That's essentially what I learned, is this river of twisting and turning and throwing you over rapids, and then some relaxed ride, and then you're around a crazy bend again that you didn't see coming. But in the end, the river is a nourishing force. It's the source of what gives life to the land around it. It has life because there's a river there. So all of these pieces that you see on the cover, they're deeply meaningful, and they're reflected in the pieces inside the book.
You also shared some of this prior to release to some people who really gave you some great feedback, some testimonials of some of the things that they've written. And I know that was included in the book. But to hear that from others, how did that make you feel? I mean, to have someone evaluating your work prior to the world, because now it's out there, right? But having someone, you know, the people who have shared the insight that they took while this was still in creation, share a little bit about that.
Well, I really appreciated, first of all, that they agreed to read through this like monster of a manuscript I put together and offer feedback on it. And they weren't strangers, is one thing to know here. Like, these are people, one of them runs the open mic, the Ghost Town Poetry open mic I mentioned. Another one was a fellow longtime attendee like myself, and now is a co-host. And another one, she runs her own leads her own poetry writing project for the public. She has classes and other resources. And so I've engaged with all of them. They've all heard my work before. So my work wasn't anything new to them. One of them, the one who's a fellow attendee and now co-host, we've even performed pieces together. We've sat down and written pieces together and had writing sessions together. So there are people who were already supportive to me and already familiar with my work. So and how I always had been, I've only once had a bad response to my poetry. I'll just say that. So I wasn't expecting anything terrible. The one time was in a bar when I was performing, and like, you're in a bar, right? You don't know who's going to think what in a bar. And she just thought my work sounded like a downer. She just didn't want to hear it. She was there for a good time. But other than that, people who read poetry, people who make music, I've always had great receptions. And so I had great receptions from these people as well. And it was important to me because, you know, they've always heard me perform like one off or a few off pieces, but here they see an entire body. And like I talked about, you know, it was a river. Constructing a body of work is like an art form in itself. You know, it takes art to write a poem, but it takes art to put together a collection. Even if you listen to an album, you know, that was deliberately constructed from beginning to end. You know, every piece like that, a novel, an album, a book of poetry is a journey. It has a beginning and it has an end and it has a progression in between that gets you there. And it's deliberately constructed. And so it's easy to listen to an album and say, well, I like songs 2, 6, and 4, and maybe not appreciate the whole thing as a body, but it is meant to be appreciated that way, at least initially. So to have someone evaluate that and my, you know, wondering, did I pull that off? Because that's what I hadn't done before. I've written before, I've performed before. This I hadn't done before. Did I pull it off? And yes, is what they told me. They told me I did. And so it was huge for me to get feedback from them for who they are in the community and their experience with poetry. And they're being published poets. So they've done this. They know what it's like. They'll know if it worked or not. And they assured me that it did. It did work. That one of them said that these are life-saving poems. These poems have the power to save lives. And that struck me very deeply. So, you know, writing these poems was part of saving my own life. The music that helped me to write saved my life. I hope that this body of work will be able to save someone else's life too, if they need it.
I believe it will.
Pass that torch.
I believe it will. And, you know, when we first started talking about this, you had shared, you know, being a part of the Voices of 100 Women. Your voice in that project is such a voice of hope and truth, and other women who are going to read this, who are going to and listening to you in this way is going to be a game changer. The world has seen so many different things happening. I think so many people have been affected by narcissism. And it doesn't even have to be a partner, so to speak. I mean, even in election season, we fell, you know, no matter what, and this is not a political, but what I'm saying is that abuse is not just limited to your home. It can be in the workplace. It can be society. And so when you write a book like this from that poetic sense, you're now showing hope, that voice that's out there. And for people who buy the book, and they're going to watch your part of the docuseries and see what a significant change you know, that you've made. I think it's just really extraordinary. So ways that people, here's what we get down to. Everyone needs this book. Everybody does. This is just a book that it's not subjective to just one type of person. This is a book that anyone could learn something from. I sat here and I've learned a few things from you just in the short 39 minutes we've been here. So imagine when you pick this book up, you're reading this, you're diving in, then they watch your docuseries piece and they see all these different things that you have shared, the different perspectives, the experiences, and everything. So how can people support and bring more life and more voice back to others? One is getting the book, which you can get on Amazon. Two is connecting with you directly. So how can someone connect with you directly and become a part of your light, the journey that you're now sharing? What's the best way to do that?
I am findable online on the handle Erin Aurelia Poetry on Facebook and on Instagram. I have pages where I share my written poetry. I share videos of performances at open mics and at shows that I've been part of. And I also have a website called Sunshine Editorial Services, which is my day job, my other hat that I wear. And on there is a page also for Erin Aurelia Poetry that talks about my poetry book and where you can find it.
Well, I want to say thank you for sharing your story. And I want to say thank you for bringing a book like this to life. And a huge congratulations to you. I know that it has not been an easy journey, but here you are and you're lighting up the world. So continue that light, continue to shine and be the star that you are. And for everyone watching, listening, ebook is available. Grab it today and really elevate this book into bestseller, international bestseller. It's a really great gift to give someone. It's very beautiful through and through. And I just want to say thank you for coming. We have officially lit the torch for this book. And I hope you're celebrating and doing something special for you today.
Thank you so much, Hannah. And thank you so much for mentioning the word hope, because that is what I hope that my readers also take away from this book, is that through this writing, I mean, I did get myself out. There's a poem in there called Layers of Leaving. I got myself out physically, but once I did, I still had to get myself out mentally, and I had to get myself out emotionally. I had to get myself out spiritually. And that was the work that happened as I wrote these poems. I came out the other side. So I want all my readers to know, if you're in the middle of this, if you're afraid you might be dealing with this, there is hope that you can get out and come out the other side. I did. And that's apparent by the end of this book, how much I was able to leave physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. My whole self finally left and became free so I could be fully who I am.
It's so beautiful. I'm so happy for you. I'm so happy that you have been able to experience the abundance of life and have that hope even reignited in you. I think that speaks volumes too. So everyone, get the book, connect with Erin. You will not be disappointed. Bone and Stars is on Amazon. It is circulating to other retailers as well. And you can also get it in print in 2 weeks if you want the hard copy. So either way, we've got you covered. Or 1 week. I'm sorry.
Yes, on the 27th.
Yeah. So just in time for holiday season, you can have either or both. Get both.
Why not both?
I think we talked about that. Having one, on an electronic device, and one where you can hug it, hold it, and curl up with a good blanket. So congratulations, Miss Erin. And I can't wait for everyone to read it and also see your docuseries.
Thank you so much, Hannah. It was great being with you today. Thank you for helping me light my torch.
Yes. All right. Thank you, everyone. And grab that book. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.